topic of today's discussion is the underground relationship with authorities. And before I introduce these wonderful three speakers that I have here, I would like to tell a little story about how this discussion, how the topic and now the thought of having this discussion came to life. I was living in Tbilisi for some time, a year to be precise, and while walking around there, attending events, the air was vibrating with something. And there, a good night out is not just a good night out. It's often on the front line of political debates. Nightlife in Tbilisi is political. All club owners, bar owners know it, and also all attendees know it. What I want to talk about further is, and what I want also for you, the listeners, to know is that Georgia is still a very traditional in terms of values and in terms of everything political and traditional, of course. And nightlife spaces there try to freely explore and embrace their true selves, and this also goes for the attendees of these spaces. A lot of these spaces try to cultivate a very inclusive environment and facilitate also societal changes. And this is why they have become a unique political force in representing especially the younger generation of Georgian people. In 2018, Bassiani, which is the biggest techno club in Tbilisi, and for you all to understand how big it is located under a football stadium near the bazaar. It got raided. The club was stormed by armed men carrying machine guns. When other clubs heard about it, because I think it was a Friday or Saturday night, they shut down the music and they asked all of their attendees to join them and to go to Bassiani and to stand outside to show the solidarity with the people there and with the people arrested. The perception of people changed at the time, and that is because the response to this event, to this riot, was to organize a huge rave in front of the parliament the following day, where people danced together for several hours. And the name of this became to be "We Dance Together, We Fight Together." This raid was intended, or at least that's what the government officials said, that it is drug-related because there had been some deaths in the city related to drugs, but later it came to light that it wasn't related to any club. And a lot of people also understood and also perceived this as a show of force, as a way to show intimidation to others, and as an attack on liberalism, freedom, and all the ideas that they stand for. So, yeah, to many this seemed as the authorities were trying to say, your lifestyle will not be tolerated. And this is just one of the events happening there in a very long list. There have been several incidents where clubs got raided because of safety concerns or the pretense of tax fraud and etc. But they all had a very specific target, and that was the clubs and the club community. The apparent reason is that this hides something more dangerous and sinister. It seems like to be an attack on the free and liberal ideologies that the club culture promotes. And as Georgians say themselves, in Georgia, raving is a political act. But we will get back to the aspect in Georgia later in this conversation. But finally now it is time to introduce our wonderful speakers. So first we have Nadzeja Ilkevich, co-founder of Create Culture Club, a creative space for Belarus communities. Yulia Zakolyabina, Ukrainian cultural practitioner, and we have had a little change in our speakers, basically 5 minutes before this conversation. Kaspars Kondratiuks, director of KKC. Welcome. Very happy you could make it.
Thank you.
The scene is based also on what you all just heard. We can understand that the scene is very much still in danger, especially by the conservative and right-wing politics. It seems also almost like it's an ongoing culture war. Why do you think that the club culture is so despised by others? Is there anything that can change to resolve this conflict? It's to everyone. We can have an open conversation.
Well, I think obviously because of a lot of stigma, which relates to, well, first of all, of course, drugs, that everyone who goes to a club, they necessarily get smashed on drugs, and then, I don't know, orgy happens, or, yeah, it's very stigmatized, I think, primarily by people who don't go to clubs. Also about the nightlife scene as such, which is very like sexualized. What happens in the dark times doesn't happen in the daytime. So when we have so many stereotypes about it, of course it also comes out in the social circles, among politicians as well. And I think it's also because clubs, or like nightlife in general, perceived as, you know, entertainment solely, and not as some social activism or culture. And I think it's a big shift will happen when people will start to perceive nightlife also as a cultural activity, not necessarily as solely entertainment. Which then will dismantle some of the stereotypes. That's my opinion.
Okay. Yeah, that's a good and long ongoing question, I think. I think for me, a very good answer for this on this topic was when I got to know this project. It's kind of a research project. It's called the Dance of Urgency, which researched how various dance movements, like in disco, techno, and punk, and all around the world, how it started in different territories, and it always have started historically through this urgency to meet up with the peers, to find people who are similar in values, principles on values, political aspects, ideology, or social aspects, and it kind of grew from this kind of resistance towards some kind of political environment which is in their territory. It doesn't matter if it's Chicago or some country in Africa. And I think maybe because of this, that it grew through this resistance, also that there is this also kind of this resistance with the authority also. And yeah, because those are the places where people want to be free from all the political views, and they just want to be with each other, to meet and find the ways, thinking, dreaming about a better future.
Yeah, I was like really thinking how to explain. So the brief situation in Belarus right now, so is you cannot organize anything that ideologically inappropriate, and there is a list of organizers, like specific organizers. It's like around 100 specific persons that have proved their loyalty, and they can organize something, so we call vegetarian events or ideologically good events. So and everything went to the deeper, like underground. So people will never speak publicly about politics because he will be imprisoned like really easily, from 10 days to years. Actually, I heard, so because it's everything based on rumors and stuff. So there are still raves are going on. And we had in Minsk a big movement for that. However, a lot of bars, I'm not saying about clubs, but bars are covering their, they're organizing different events undercover. So, for example, the party, so at the bar, and go into this, for example, secret door somewhere to have the political conversation. But I just asked my friends from Vitebsk, and they said like, yes, it is possible, не знаю, пока не залетели, so until you caught. So if you got caught, so everything is going like under control. So it's like the culture, how to say, in our case, it was underground, but this is underground of underground. So, and some things are, and you never know what's happening there because it's not publicly, and you need to get like 3 levels of the security to actually get inside there.
So, if we talk also about this stigmatization of underground movements, or if we talk about raves not only in Ukraine, but yeah, we'll also talk about the perspective of Ukraine. It's very much connected always to leftist movement, and that people who go to raves, they are more like left-wing or liberal. And because in Ukraine there was always very strong right-wing, very radical, they always use these stigmatizations like, oh, these people who go raving or go to these specific venues, they use drugs, they are LGBT, they are this or that. They put all these labels to later use it in political agenda and to pressing these specific venues. And maybe it's not even happening on like higher political level, but on the municipal level, yeah. So in Kiev, there were so many occasions where specific bars and venues were just crashed by radical right movements. The stones were flying into the windows, or they could just come into the place and beat up the security or people who work there, and always justify that they are like fighting for the right cause because these people are sick. And that's why many like rave and club movements in Ukraine, they also like opposing this traditional system of values, how we call it, because also in Ukraine and in Russia, and I think in Belarus, there is a lot used this traditional values, traditional family, like something very conformist.
Yeah, and also like in terms of the terminology, so for example, it means a lot of, you can see the advertisement like discoteca. So it's discoteca SSSR, the best hits of whatever nostalgia, Bonnie M or something like that. So when people are like, so they are organizing like massive these things. So and then, yeah, and those like are the parties that are stigmatized. So for example, 10 years ago it was possible to have Pavidla festival. It was Psytrance festival actually was self-organized by people. So that was really, it was approved by the authorities, but there was before the crackdown, before 2020. And right now this is like impossible. So someone Psytrance, I think you are like jankers, you know, like those people better organize discoteca or something like that, yeah.
Yeah, maybe to circle back a little bit to what Julie, you said about the right activists coming to clubs and everything, because when I was reading about Kiev and researching, there was also one of the latest events in 2021 where one club, the entrance got blocked, basically by far-right activists who were very violent. So, and we have to remember, these are people who intentionally come to places to basically cause chaos and do harm to other people. And when they called police, they did nothing. So this is coming together with the topic that we're talking also about today, that the authorities, the police is there to protect us, but once you call them, they often would have to wait several hours, simply not for the police, but for the far-right activists, as they call themselves, to simply go home, to be able to enter the club again. So, as I understand, I don't know how it is with police now or has been, but yeah, this is just also one of the incidents that I know about.
Well, it's always difficult with police. There is a famous rave movement that appeared in Kiev, which is called Schema. Maybe somebody heard about it. It was quite popular in the late 2010s. So they appeared, I think, in 2013 or so, when there was a revolution of dignity on Maidan in Ukraine. And because of this revolution and also the war in the east of Ukraine that came later, foreign artists, they were not willing to travel to Ukraine. They thought it's dangerous. Therefore, the club scene in Ukraine appeared in a place where, okay, we can't invite foreign DJs anymore, so we need to do something with the local DJs, and finally shifted this perception that having of something local is not cool. Like, oh, Ukrainian DJs, it's not cool to listen to them, it's cool to go and pay for foreign DJs, and I think it's will be relatable for many other countries. And then Schema appeared, and they were inviting only Ukrainian DJs, I think at least until 2017, and they became just so popular and famous, and I think a lot of international media were writing about them and making documentaries, and they were able to gather, like per event, they would gather more than 2,000 people. And these were primarily actually illegal raves, so they appeared as a resistance to like bureaucratic system and bureaucratic machine in Ukraine, because it's very corrupted and still continue to be so. So they were like, we don't want to be part of the system, so they were doing rave each time in a different place, and it was not so easy to get to know where it happens. So for the police and the official forces, it was really difficult to follow them and track them down. Of course, when they become more popular, more issues appear. But it was like a resistance, and I think for many people who were coming there, it was like being part of this community that is opposing to something. And what is interesting that if we come back to the situation of now, during the full-scale invasion, raves also became as a uniting point of resistance and also of community help. There is an initiative which is called, I think, Repair Together, or something like that, if I'm not mistaken. And the idea is that it started in one village of Ukraine, which was temporarily occupied by Russian forces. And when it became deoccupied, well, a lot of buildings were destroyed there. So then, like a group of people who were like DJs, producers, and different artists, they decided, okay, what if we do rave, but the purpose of this rave will be to clean up the spaces and also try to rebuild together some of the houses. So they invited DJs who were playing their sets, while other people were just very dynamically cleaning the spaces and rebuilding the houses. And I think it was a beautiful moment which showed that, you know, dancing or rave is not a scary word, which means that, yeah, people just getting drunk on a dance floor. It actually can be a meaningful social activity as well.
I have seen videos of that, and I must say it did look like lots of fun, and also showing how the community can really come together, listen to techno music, and do something good with the time that they're simply together and talking and cleaning up the bomb spaces, definitely. But Nadej, I wanted to ask you, you know, in a country where basically speaking anything even a little bit bad about the dictator can be punished by a fine or restriction of freedom, or even, let's be honest, sometimes it can be serious damage to your own life. As far as I know, how is the creation, for example, of new spaces or of NGOs happening right now? Because I understand you also told me before that several hundred NGOs simply got liquidated in one day without any kind of reform or law taking place. It was just like one day, like this, you're not existing anymore.
Those who were liquidated, so they right now going in exile, so they're relocated. So I don't like the word immigrated, because we are relocated, hopefully, I don't know, for some time, and continue the activities in other countries, in Lithuania, Poland, Georgia, Latvia, everywhere in the world. And right now, what's going on with NGO and non-governmental sector, new organizations are appearing, but they are promoting the new, not new, but the dictatorship ideology thing. So, and in terms of new spaces, it's very hard. So, and mostly spaces are in very, very, to say, dangerous situation. And those culture have been moved to the bars, as I spoke before, to the so-called weddings, birthday parties. Most of people also, as I know, they went to the forest. It's like to the, they bought the land or they just rented it. The house is somewhere like 200 kilometers from Minsk or some kind of far away, and they are doing workshops and various cultural things there. But it is dangerous because we had like accident. So during the winter there was a theatrical residency, so and people had to go through the lake, which is frozen, and a very famous theatrical director, like critic, so he got under the water and then he died. Yeah, because he was like, hurry up to actually to lead this thing somewhere in the forest. And yeah, and those happening, like, people will never tell, so there is like very strict rules who you tell, who you publish, what you do. And for example, we help as a space in Vilnius. We are not considered extremist also. So if you're in culture, if you're a culture organizer, most likely you are extremist considered by authorities. You're a criminal. So you organize exhibition, you're very bad.
You're a threat to national security.
Yeah, so, and those sentences are like for musicians, for tour band, they got 12 to 15 years of prison. So it's like you got for killing someone, for murder, but not for playing songs. So, and they have the rules, so those who are relocated, they may get label you as an extremist. So that make hard people from who still inside the country to interact. Because if you're caught, if you put the like, or, I don't know, photographed somewhere with this extremist label person, so you'll have a problem. So you are sharing extremist materials or showcasing that. So, and thanks God we are not yet. We hope to keep this for a long time. So we are serving as a spot for people inside the country, so who would like to show their art, because it's impossible inside. There you can see exhibitions of cats, or exhibition of, what was that? Oh my God. Some unbelievable facts, or you can go to the concert by KVN, Uralskие пельмени, or something like that, which is like, it's like everything is Russian, like Dima Bilan or whatever thing, but there are very few events in Belarusian language, and those are like, it's almost impossible to register a new thing to start over. Yeah. So if you know someone from Belarus and they're artists, so and you can organize something abroad, so ask him to bring the work. So that will be really helpful for all people, because they need to show, to be seen, and it's very hard to be there to do this inside.
Thank you, especially under such a threat, because right now it seems like the biggest terrorists in Belarus are the cultural workers. And those are also actually the ones who get imprisoned and have lost their lives. Or there are many people who we simply do not still know where they are as well. Yeah. But maybe let's go to Latvia. Let's see how it is, how it will be, and how it has been here, maybe. And Kaspars, I wanted to ask, how was the beginning of KKC, Kaņepes kultūras centrs? What did it look like? Because we just had Pride, right? So we had a week long of wonderful events, wonderful people were coming there. It was really filled with lots of love and lots of self-expression. But if I remember correctly, it wasn't really that easy in the beginning, was it?
Well, disclosure, I was not there at the beginning, and here was supposed to be Davis, who was here at the beginning. But I know the story quite well. Maybe also I'm a bit more collaborative person than resistant person. So, but I think KKC started actually also from this somewhat need of urgency, but also as an opportunity, but because it was kind of connected with the aftermath of the economical crisis. A lot of buildings in Riga were empty. They were reclaimed by state, municipality, or mostly banks. Or it was in the Kaņepes Cultural Center situation, it was a musical school before for many years, and since it also moved out, it was also empty. So a lot of movement started back then to reclaim, or it was this Occupy Me. It was kind of from this, what happened also in United States, to claim these buildings for some creative purposes. Actually, within this movement, one place founded was Kaņepes Cultural Center, but also this organization Free Riga, who were repurposing different buildings and territories around the city. And it was meant a place to meet, socialize, and host various events, what would be needed for society. It had to be multicultural and diverse, and that's still something we are working on. And and yes, of course, you know, when there is this need for this place, and there somehow organically grows this resistance. Because, of course, when you are in the neighborhood of residential buildings, then you have to kind of understand that you are also people around are living. So I think that was this first wave of challenge, where a lot of neighbors complained, and with I think, yeah, when I joined, it was like closed for, I joined Kaņepes Cultural Center in 2015, and it was closed for several times already by municipality, and even at one point, Estonian embassy, who was next to it, issued this international nota to Latvian Ministry of Foreign Affairs that they are bothered in this country by this venue. Usually you give this nota when you want to start a war. So there's no war with Estonia, luckily, and actually we worked with the relationship with them afterwards. But yes, actually I joined in 2015 when we hosted the first Pride in Riga. Not the first Pride in Riga, but we were first time the Pride House. And it was a lot of also eye-opening and learning for me. I was always in friends with the LGBT community, but I think hosting a Pride House is something that really opens your eyes in terms of how big part of society is seeing different minority groups. And there are a lot of aspects. There are people, sometimes friends also, who can be very judgmental, and you have a lot of discussions and towards that why we have to have inclusive and safer spaces, but also photographers, journalists trying to get in, trying to get a photo through the toilet window, and like these very weird things. And even actually this year we had like a mini attack because there was this fire smoke bomb placed just next to the stage right at the closing party after the Pride March. And yeah, I had to call the police, and there was one guy who just took a scooter and put the bomb, like you couldn't trace the scooter. So it's like a very weird situations where you have to resist, but I think the most kind of sad part is that, well, those groups of minority, they feel this resistance all the time. Not all of us do, and I think it's something to kind of grow the skill of empathy to actually understand how others also are feeling.
A lot of people, at least unfortunately lately, I have heard that a lot of people say, why does everything needs to be political? Like, there's from individuals and of course also from authorities and institutions, there's a lot of trying to depoliticize art, depoliticize clubs, events, bars. People saying, well, I just want to go and have a drink and chill, why are you coming with this? Why do I have to see this and that? How is the general feeling? Is this getting worse? Is this getting better? Are people becoming numb? What can we maybe also do about it or say to these people?
I think actually quite a lot of youth is becoming more aware and politically involved. At least that's what we also see about some events that we are hosting when there are some discussions or introductions to some initiatives and stuff like that. And I think it's good to be aware about the environment, and political aspect is how we kind of grow in our society. And maybe that's also an issue, because if half of the population is not very active in it and just like can diss about what they don't like, but don't really participate actively, then, well, just half of it participates, and then there is this discourse of how we should live together. And yeah, I think that's something you can't take off. It's like usual aspect. Don't mix the politics in culture or sports or whatever. But apparently, as we see now, there's no other way. Actually, you support so many cultural organizations in Latvia. We're getting also money from Russian companies or Russian state, and then you see that, wow, we are a lot of dependent from it. So you can't just take it out, because that's one of the aspects of how we kind of live together.
I think there's, well, to me, there's also difference, if it's, let's say, just a bar, the purpose of which we want to serve alcohol to whoever comes. That's one thing, and I honestly don't think that every bar or restaurant should be socially active. But if you call yourself a cultural venue or cultural place, I feel like it is the responsibility to have a stand. And I think in Kanepes there was also a lot of instances where people treat it, some people treat it just a bar, and then they have a big surprise when on the social media, Canipes posts something along the values and opposing certain political systems and so on. I think it's because many people think that culture is all literature or ballet, but actually culture is senses and patterns that are present in society, and it never can be apolitical per se, and we can see it now in Belarus, you know, if cultural manager considered same as a terrorist, and culture always targeted as the first one and used as a propaganda a lot in the case of Russia, then yeah, culture can't be apolitical because it's used as an instrument and because it's a lot about the fabric of society and who we are and about our identity. And I think we like to say pick your fight, and different venues can fight different fights. And that's okay, you don't need to fight for everything and everyone, but what is the important question is how we practice solidarity, and even if we don't fight this particular battle, how we can be in solidarity with those who fight it, and show it, and maybe sometimes support it as well. And that's maybe I don't often see between cultural spaces of like genuinely supporting each other and being vocal about it. And that's what I would like to see changing. And I think very often it's also the reason for it that many people who run cultural places, they burned out and they have a lot of things on their plate, and they just don't have time to reflect, okay, what other things are happening around. Yeah, it's something about like changing the system bit by bit.
Do you want to say something?
Yeah, yes, it's politics. I think that politics is about actually decision making. So, in giving, how to say, it's not only about presidents and all the things, so it's actually everywhere. So who is making decision for you? So, and if you are apolitical, you actually also in politics, so you let someone make decision for you. And I think in culture, so in culture what stands for and what is used, it has the, most cultural organizations and, I don't know, activists, they have the clear vision. So I do not support war. Yeah, we asking, like if you are like okay, so this is you have to have the real clear thing like values, and the culture helps to set it. So if to change the mind, to build a different mindset, to help discover other things. So and it is not a separate thing. So, and for example, if you're making exhibition and people say, no, it's not about politics, but it's actually, and if you start digging what is the exhibition is about, yeah, exhibition is about like vanishing or disappearing villages somewhere. So, okay, so this is, yeah, you are bringing the awareness of something. Yeah, so, and then you will dig up the clear choice. So it's always connected, and it should be like that.
I also want to say that, like often we also discussed some time ago, like why some, in some countries, in some context, people protest and more resistant than in other. Yes, like in Latvia, it seems like people don't protest that massively or that much. And I think it's also, like, when I think about Ukraine, you know, it comes from the sense of, like, just existential question. Like, when you see, when people suddenly wake up that, okay, so our language is threatened, and we are threatened as a nation, then suddenly it just, like, mobilizes everyone, and all these initiatives come up, and suddenly everything is very political. And you can say from one hand that, oh, it's like too late to wake up. It's better we start this work when everything is calm and nice. But unfortunately, I don't think it works like this, because people need motivation. And we as human beings are always motivated when we need to survive. And survival instinct is the strongest one. So when we feel like culturally we need to survive as a nation, as a language, as a cultural entity, then suddenly this all happens. And for me, it's sad that people realized in Ukraine that, oh, using Ukrainian language is cool only now. But on the other hand, I truly don't believe that it would happen otherwise, if not the full-scale war.
Oh, but that's interesting, yeah. In Latvia, we just discuss it, so you need to have a war in order to actually like force it and protect the language.
Yeah, also like I would like to add for, when the 2020 started, when we had 2020, 4 years ago, it's like been a long time ago, but the revolution, so, and after that, I don't know, the people kind of awakened, so, and the more initiatives in Belarusian language appeared, and now what I see from, like, we have online school for young people from 18 to 25, and they are more and more themselves learning language. So, and they Belarusian language, they are more involved in that. So, and I think this, and at the same time, more and more Russian offices like Kontakte, Yandex, another thing appeared in Belarus. So, and it's like they are resistant, so they cannot actually stand publicly, but they are meeting together, so they're learning and they're practicing the language, which is like separates clearly them from the occupation.
Yeah, also speaking about protests, not so long ago, like now in April, May, when the government was trying to pass, or actually passed, the foreign agents law in Georgia, which basically states that any NGO receiving 20% of funding from outside Georgia has to register as a foreign agent. And many has drawn lines as this is a Russian law, and Georgians themselves are also calling it a Russian law and very insulting to the Georgian society. It all sparked huge protests over a long time, very brutal protests. People, activists got beaten up, followed in the streets. Also, huge groups of people simply got watered with water cannons and whatnot. And when I was speaking to my friends in Georgia and I was asking them, you know, I was seeing them in the front line, literally in the front line of the protest, and I asked them, aren't you scared for yourself? Aren't you scared about your life? And they told me, they are like 20, 25 years old. And they told me, I have nothing to lose. I have nothing to lose. If I don't come out now, if I don't try to stop it now, then there's no tomorrow for me now. This law got passed, and many young people, many young Georgians are already planning their life abroad because, unfortunately, well, Russia is taking over all its neighbors. But if we continue about this, maybe a bit more about the Georgian-Russian conflict, in Georgia, there are signs, same signs as you could see today entering the bruises on your left and on your right. Signs when you enter bars and clubs, which also states by entering this territory, you agree that Putin is a war criminal and you respect the territorial integrity of Ukraine and any other country that has fallen victim to the Russian occupation. When you enter clubs, there are stamps with dates which says when the next rally or when the next protest is going to happen. There are stamps which says Russia is an occupier and so on. And I would actually like to read out a visa which Deda Ena bar, which is also a very loved bar by me, has imposed that Russian citizens, if you want to enter the bar, you have to fill out the following visa, and I will read it out loud so we can maybe also discuss it a bit further. So this is what it says. Citizens of Russia need a visa to enter the Dana bar because not all Russians are welcome. We stand for equality and unity, but we need to make sure that the brainwashed Russian imperialists do not end up in our bar. Please support us by filling up a visa application so nobody has to hang out alongside assholes. Thanks for understanding. And next, we have a couple of check boxes, which they need to fill out as well. I will read out just a couple of them. I am a citizen of Russia, visiting Georgia. Having respect for my host country and its people, I agree to the following. I didn't vote for Putin. He's a dictator. 20% of Georgia are occupied by Russia. I like the phrase, Ruski vojenní kорабль, иди нахуй, слава Украине. These are some of the checkboxes that they need to check. As well, there are some code of conduct. Please understand, after crossing Georgian border, you are in a foreign country. Act accordingly. Do not assume that people speak Russian. Ask first. And my absolute favorite, and it actually blows my mind that this even had to be included because it means that there had been a situation like this. Do not offer us to pay in ruble. I would say it's a pretty kindergarten level of understanding when visiting another country, right? But no one should have any issues with these questions, in my opinion. Yet the bar got massively cyber-attacked. So I guess it did step on someone's nerve, and some people might argue that it's harsh language and, you know, why should we, like, we're not them, we're like this and that. What might you say to them? Because after the war, so there were two waves of Russians coming. After when the war first started, they were really opposition, politically active. When the mobilization started, it was just Russians trying to get away from getting called into the army. So there have also been a lot of conflicts in Tbilisi because the prices have soared for the rents, the food prices, etc. Basically, they say, last time I was in Tbilisi, I could really say that it felt like I was in Moscow with Hachapuri, unfortunately. But yeah, what might you say about this? Is it a harsh language? Is it...
I will say very short. So when you apply for Lithuanian visa, you need to fill almost the same thing. It's official, so they're not asking to, of course, the check boxes. So I do not support the full-scale invasion. So you need to answer whose territory the owner of the Crimea without any check boxes. So, and there are a few questions. Yeah, they're the kind of quiz. So, and actually, not all people pass it.
Is it to get in where?
Lithuanian visa, humanitarian visa, or residency temporary permit. So actually, you fill in a form in immigration. So this is a very good idea.
I actually think Latvian as well. At least if you're Belarusian or Russian citizen, I think there are like some kind of things you need to fill out. I don't know if it's for every nationality like this.
Yeah, maybe like it's a bad name.
But I actually wanted to ask Kaspars because Kanipes has this kind of sign inside, which I think was your initiative.
I saw it in Georgia, actually in a very nice club, and yeah, it was in a nice venue, so I just took a photo and printed out. But yeah, I mean, yeah, returning to kind of the aspect of venues and the events, I think any collectives or community who are or a venue who are welcoming, hosting some other people, like here Kinetic in this place, or Kanipes Cultural or Center, or me at home, you know, I think everyone have the right to have their own house rules. And I think it's something that it has to be based on the values and principles that we want to get along with. Not just about this sign that Russia is aggressor. we also have a code of conduct, which states that everyone has to respect each other, that no is a no, and everyone has the right to keep their boundaries, respect other people and the house, not kind of demolish it, and various aspects, which actually all of this code of conduct was created not by me or Davis, it was created by all of the team together. And we discussed a lot about it, which things should be put there or not, and also not to be using flashlights or in the dance floors or in the concerts, because many thought that it disturbs other people to feel the vibe. And I think it's very equally important things how we should. I don't think it's ridiculous questions. I think it's very valid questions, and Georgia has been suffering also a lot, and they have a lot of pain inside them. So I think they have the right to put their house rules if they want to invite people inside.
I would like to say that I think people might say it's discrimination of certain people, but I would like to call it a generous exclusion, because no place ever can be ultimately inclusive. Because inclusion means that, everyone with whatever views on the world or whatever stance they have, they will be included. And I think generous exclusion is to make a place safer for a certain group of people. And then you can decide that I exclude these people because they threaten the space I want to create. And again, if it's a private entity, it's totally okay that you can decide I'm excluding this in order to keep caring about this particular community I want to create here. And then these signs, I think, are justified.
Yeah, actually also a good part in this is that, also I don't know, maybe here, but if you have these house rules and most of the audience and who are coming are aware about it, for sure closest community will be aware about it. And what results in specifically night culture and the venues is that there's actually less job for the security, and you don't have to add like tons of security, because the community also will kind of raise the flags. They will not just bystand on various aspects when someone is threatened or disturbed or pushed around, and they kind of get involved because they know that I like this place, I want to come here, I like this party, and I know that I also have to be responsible and not be just a passive bystander. So I think it also benefits for the event or the place, because more people get involved in protecting these values.
Definitely, to have your listeners and attendees also educated, and then you can really feel it in raves and any kind of electronic, night event, that if you see that someone is struggling or there is a situation, don't be a bystander. Go ask if they are okay, or if they need help. Don't just please stand by. Yes, but we are very quickly approaching the end of this discussion, and I was thinking, as a closing remark, maybe each of you have some 1-2 sentences that you want to put out in the world to say what people could think about, maybe. Is there anything you would like to say?
I think it's important to be an active bystander. And it doesn't mean that you need to be a savior. You never can save everyone or be at forefront of every issue. But I think it's so important to maintain awareness, not just, I'm not reading this news because there is so much negativity, or I'm not following this and that. No, just like stay open. And I think that's very important, be active in following what is happening and just caring for each other.
I don't know. Read the news. Follow the news from the neighbors, because it's still war in Ukraine, it's still repressions going in Belarus, it's still conflicts, Israel-Palestine, it's still Syria, it's still everything. So, but be aware of that and be political, because if you are like apolitical, that's someone is taking decision for you. And in terms of unauthorized things, just create. So think if someone is creating things illegal in the underground, so everything is possible, and just stand for it, for your values.
Yeah, well, I think we started this also mentioning traditions and right and left and everything. I'm always trying to keep in mind that not to kind of obey the law and maybe a bit more cautious about it, but I always remember that all the laws and all these traditions are figured out by people. Some people wrote them down, and as the time moves forwards, we just need to kind of keep talking and keep thinking about what is important in us in today, and how we can voice out that something doesn't work in a respectful way without aggression.
I actually come up just now with a sentence which concludes, dance, don't stand still. Yes, because dance sometimes a political move as well.
Definitely. Thank you so much, all of you. And about saying what is wrong, I just will take a little ad break to shout out to Teesu Buvalde for being too busy drinking coffee rather than doing their actual job and almost making this whole event not happening. So, but an actual big thank you to Kinetic team, to Christians, to everyone involved, for us to be able to be here on the stage today, for having an amazing event yesterday night. I hope that some of you came and listened to the music. So big thank you. You do not understand how much work has actually been put in. And please go to events, please support communities, please pay for the tickets. It's not just about saying, I support. They need your money as well, right? Please give your money, because €5 here, €5 there, and it can make a very big and beautiful event like this one come together. And at the end, my closing remark, I also want to say something, is that, as we talked about, people often say, I don't read the news, I don't do politics, to which I want to respond, if you do not do politics, politics will do you. Okay, no, really. So let's not be indifferent to the events happening in the world, and most importantly, let's not be indifferent towards each other. Thank you so much for attending, and thank you to the wonderful speakers today. Thank you.
Thank you.